Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to another Tuesday edition of the 19th hole from In Between Media. I'm Kelly in Phoenix, joined by Bo McBrayer, also known as Bo McBigtime, Conor Coughlin, also known as Conor DFS. Don't forget those underscores because they're important. So we have Craig in the audience right now. I'm going to put out another tweet and be like, yo, come chat with us. Something important. Bo, what have you been up to this week?
I've been working. I'm on like 6 days straight that I'm just like working so I can have this weekend off. I don't want to work on Father's Day weekend and I don't want to work on US Open weekend. So I'm working my butt off to get to this weekend. I'm exhausted.
That would be exhausting. Connor, how about you?
About the same. Just working a ton.
And leaving our broadcast, like losing his internet. He's been doing that too.
That was fast. Usually it takes longer for us to scare him away.
He's like, bye. Peace
Bye.
out.
Too bad. His loss.
Oh, he's coming back. There he is. Yay!
Dude, I can't even remember the last time.
This is first time with the new internet in South Dakota where it's a
show. See ya.
hamster running on a treadmill to power his internet.
I had to go feed that son of a bitch.
I was going to say that wasn't a very long pee break.
We have a comment. Craig said, I am really just here to hear about who won amongst you.
Oh, no, of course.
So we'll just save that till the end.
And he has to stay. I really think that Craig sticks around the whole time anyway. He's like the one that loves to stay.
We're happy to have him.
I am just gonna say I won by a lot.
Which is amazing because only 3 of your guys made the cut, and only
they were the best.
All three of us had 3 out of 6, and she had her 3 just happened to be all in the top 10. So that went a long way.
It did.
I just love the modesty. There were no tweets that went out. There was no BS taking victory laps. You know, very humble, very, very humble.
There were tweets, I will admit, but I protected the names of the innocent.
Is that what you think you did?
Yes.
No, it was I'd like to say it was a good match. It just wasn't. We all had some carnage. Kelly did have some good plays though, and did beat the living piss out of Bo and I. So congrats to you, lady.
Thank you. I will take it. I am excited to have won. That's win number 2 out of however many weeks we've been playing. So that's exciting news.
If you're keeping track at home, I'm still very, very up on you guys.
How many weeks have we been doing this now?
5, 6,
13.
Bo's won once.
I've been second place every other time too.
I think I've won at least 3 or 4 times now.
You won. If we've been doing it 6 weeks, you won 3. I won 2. Bo won 1.
Yeah. So like I said, very.
Bo didn't play one of them either. Anyway, it was exciting. You are still in the lead, Connor. We'll give you that. Even though
some would say that makes me the best of the 3 of us, but we'll see.
We'll see. It's okay. We shared a few players amongst the 3 of us. At least one, I think.
I think we all were in lockstep playing Rory. And it was nice for me not to have to say it for once.
That's true.
Yeah, you were definitely not alone on Rory there. JT was popular. Even he was my guy, and he almost pulled it off. And then right at the last minute, Rory just kind of put the foot down and birdied the last 2, and that was all she wrote.
which was nice to see, considering he hasn't been able to close a door in the last.
That was a statement. That's what when he birdied 17 and 18, I was like, yeah, Rory just made a statement. And of course, he made a real statement after the tournament was over about his 21st PGA Tour win, which gives him the second most by a non-American in the history of golf. So he passed Greg Norman, our Live Golf CEO, who's doing just fine financially. Greg, the Shark, is doing quite well these days. But Rory got the moral victory of his 21st PGA Tour win at the Memorial, which is, at the RBC, which is a great tournament. That was an entertaining tournament because a lot of times these tournaments will try to kind of trick the tour players on the final day or even on the weekend. RBC, over there at St. George's, they're like, all right, we're going to make this as easy as possible. Who's going low when it matters the most? And Rory comes in with a 62 on Sunday, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, and I actually thought Finau was going to make a little bit of a run, and I talked to you guys about it on Friday. I was like, God, it's amazing how many putts this guy misses. If he made half of them, he'd be winning tournaments left and right.
As soon as you said that, he started making putts, and he shoot like a 29 going out, and yeah, made a couple eagles.
I think the other one worth talking about, at least amongst our picks, was how I stuck with Fitz again this week, and Fitzpatrick does what Fitzpatrick does best, which is play amazing golf and then not do anything on the last day. So that was exciting.
Exactly what he always does. He does enough. He does enough to make the stats look really good. But at the end of the day, when it comes to scoring DraftKings points, which is why I didn't play him, is you see guys that are around him in the standings, they all have more DK points than he does. They all have more FanDuel points than he does. And that's I can't live with that guy.
Guess what, though?
He was in your winning lineup.
He was in my winning lineup. But remember I said there was a pattern, how he's been 14 or better in all of his wins. And it's been 2 wins, a loss, 2 wins, a loss, 2 wins, a loss. So now I have a win. He came in 10th. So according to the pattern, I should play Fitz again this week. According to the pattern of the last 10
Right,
minutes.
have fun with that.
He also has won at this course before.
He has. I think he's
13 U.S. Amateur, I think.
Oh, I just cracked my beer open because I need to take a drink, remembering that I talked about that pattern because that's exciting. I love
9 years ago, he was good on this course. And it wasn't set up for U.S. Open. It was for U.S. Amateur, which is a whole different ballgame.
You're a U.S. Amateur. Not even.
Yeah. I am an amateur golfer in the U.S. Fitz was an amateur golfer from England in the U.S. when he won at Brookline in 2013, which was an impressive victory. I mean, you can't take it away from him, obviously. I'm just saying on the PGA Tour, all these stats that he's piled up to lure us into these DFS builds with him included almost never pay off. Like, it just seems like he has the best ball striking numbers of anybody in the field. He's up there with John Rahm statistically. And you're like, okay, this guy's not John Rahm. He's not Rory McIlroy. He's not even Dustin Johnson. He's out there striking the ball beautifully. And what do you get to show for it? You get a guy who's going to be chalky because he's got all the stats to pop up on everybody's metrics and no pudding at the end of after dinner. There's no dessert for Matt Fitzpatrick and anybody who rosters him.
Is that a phrase I'm not aware of? I mean, why would that be your go-to for a dessert? You could have picked anything.
Pudding's delicious, dude. Pudding is go-to.
It's like gooey and gross.
Yeah. Pull my dentures out, I can still have pudding.
So I did recorded a pod with Craig today about how I can hear dead people and also Rondale Moore. But this is a golf show, but Craig is here and he was telling me that he tries to pick stuff that we say, but will mix and match, and it doesn't really work out for him that much that way because like we all will have different things. But right now he says, I'm actually going to play a lineup based off U3 and U3 only. So we need to tell him.
The only thing that I would say about that, because I struggle with this too, even listening to other people in the industry throughout the week, is all three of us will be looking at some of the same key stuff, but then there'll be bits and pieces that are going to be different. Like something that, Wednesday night pops out in my head as being like an opportunity. I may change and bake that in, or I may look at guys that perform better at that certain metrics. So I think playing a little bit of everybody that we say is kind of a good way to do it, because we all come at it from a little bit different angle. I play the same group of guys almost every week, and that's kind of my tactic. Bo, I think takes a little bit like a little more diverse stance, and then Kelly runs the numbers, and I think probably runs them and looks at them a little more than I do even. So I mean, there's just different avenues that we all take to get to the results.
I think that my strategy is more of like a top middle value versus what might be the best pick to go with. I don't know if that makes sense. I try and round it out.
You do a lot of that value analyzing. I'll be honest with you. I don't run any kind of value analytics at all. And I think that's a lot of times you get turned on to people that like Bo and I might gloss over just because, they're maybe a little longer shot, but they're coming up having the right tools in the toolbox to be a value in the week, given the price. So a lot of times I'll pivot to some of the stuff that you throw out in that regard. So
I have done that for stuff that you have said too. So I appreciate that. And I always text Connor too. I'll be like, I'm not stealing. I just ended up looking at this and I really liked him. So I do give him a heads up, I will say.
Just copping all my stuff.
Well, because Kelly and I both use the team rise or fall metrics. Like I kind of get where she's coming from. When she comes up with picks, I'm like, this isn't coming from nowhere. Like for me, It's like I think Kelly's way more analytical than I am, because all I'm doing is going off the golf knowledge I have, and then using the analytics to confirm my biases that I already have. And it just works, because if I really like a guy, but he's coming in at 15 to 20% rostered, I'm not going to play him as much, because it's just dumb. You're playing yourself there in DFS.
Yep.
And if there's a guy I'm kind of on the fence about, but he's showing up at under 10% rostered, I'm going to be like, hell yeah, let's load up the wagon on this guy. And there's a few guys in the field this week, because it's a U.S. Open. It's a huge field. It's on a golf course that is very well known. You have a lot of golfers here to choose from. And so my pool, which is normally between 20 to 25 golfers, is going to be 30 to 35 this week, because I want to get more diverse. I want to throw in some extra leverage plays, because I'm going to have to play some chalk, because the chalk won't be that heavy this week. You're talking about one of the best fields. It's a major. You're going to have every good golfer in the world in contention here. So you can go and pick your chalk and get a little wild with it, but you also have to diversify, because there's lots of guys in here that are just priced really dumb. Like the algorithm's doing us a favor here. And we're going to get to that, but I like a lot of these chalky guys. I like a lot of guys that aren't getting any attention, because there's so many good plays here.
What do you think about the PGA defectors coming back over from the inaugural Live and playing this week?
It's USGA. They can do whatever. If the USGA says we don't care what tour you play on, and if you qualify for the US Open, you qualify for the US Open. You have guys in this field like Scott Stallings that qualified last week, and they're PGA Tour card holders, but they weren't in this field yet, and they earned their way back into the field. Ricky Fowler is another guy that's going to have to earn his way into this field every year until he
not even like politically, like just as a like I vibe of the event, or vibe of them being there, or like
I don't think I think that's kind of an overblown story.
I know. There's been video and pictures already of players snubbing other players, like straight up. Kevin Na, like tried to go and talk to it was either JT or Spieth, and he totally just turned around and
Well,
walked
nobody
away.
likes Kevin Na, and that's never been
No, but it was
like even as a PGA Tour vet before he did any defecting or taking money from anybody.
no,
Nobody likes
wants,
Kevin Na.
but they don't want to play with him. Gooch and Na are together.
He takes a half an hour to take one shot. Of course,
I'm
they don't
just
want to play with
saying
him.
nobody, from what I'm reading in the rumor mill at least, nobody wants to play with them. And so they're pairing up the live players together because nobody in the PGA wants to play with them. They're being snubbed. I think the fans are going to show some flavor for
The
sure.
Boston
And
fans.
the first person
These
to
are
lose,
Boston fans.
the first person who's going to lose their shit is going to be DeChambeau. He's going to lose it.
That dude hasn't had his shit together in years, so nobody's afraid of DeChambeau. The only one that really is going to get a lot of fanfare is Dustin Johnson here because he's an actual contender. He's the kind of player who can take this kind of course over if he's on his game, and he took the most money to go over there. Like Phil Mickelson, if this was 5 years ago.
He played like he cashed the check and forgot about it.
Oh, yes, for sure. And yeah, that wedding to plan with Paulina, and Paulina had him like wrapped around her little finger, and they had their $100 million wedding that took up almost all of his live money. But like, if this was 5 years ago, Phil Mickelson's still looking for his first U.S. Open title. He's not going to win this week because he's almost 50 years old and he hasn't been playing well either. But DJ is the interesting one. Like, that's the only one I really care about. All these other live guys, it's irrelevant. Like, the USGA is saying we don't care. The other players might care, especially if their name is Kevin Na. Nobody liked him to begin with. Or Bryson DeChambeau. Nobody liked him to begin with. It's like these are guys that were already ostracized by PGA Tour peers. And so them getting cast away is like nothing new. DJ was a surprise because people generally like DJ, even if he's kind of just like, like go snort some cocaine, have a party. But he's still likable, and he's like, you even hear JT and Rory, who are most outspoken against the Live Tour defectors. They've already come out and say, we don't think any differently of DJ. We're just kind of disappointed at what he did choose, but that's his choice. Like, you don't hear them saying the same kind of treading the line about the other guys because they're already like, oh, thanks, you took Kevin Na and Bryson DeChambeau. Our average round time is going to go down by 25 minutes just from that.
So Bo has no opinion on this subject.
Obviously. No, not at all.
I will say part of the reason I brought it up, one was just to kind of see what you thought the atmosphere was going to be. And I think we're all on the same page. I think it's going to be it's in Boston. I think any tournament in Boston was going to be a little brutal on fan favorites and, the villains and all that. But I think in particular with these guys and the story behind them, I think they're going to have a little rocky week. But that being said, their ownership in terms of early projections is like nothing. So I did want to kind of segue that a little bit and just point out, because he probably won't come up in our modeling, but I do a DJ is coming in at like sub 3% ownership projection right now at 9,400. So I wanted to touch on that.
I'm not against playing DJ. I am not against
Tour has done for some ownership leverage, because I do think I didn't want to get back into the politics of it, but I do think that there are some scenarios or byproducts of the live tournament that we can kind of cash in on this week a little bit. So
DJ didn't forget how to play golf, guys. He needs to be motivated. And I think a U.S. Open at Brookline is a pretty damn good motivator for anybody, whether it's for money or for fame. Like, DJ comes to play in these tournaments. He really does. It's those in-between tournaments. Like, if he was going to show up at the RBC last week instead of the one in England, you weren't going to see the best DJ in Canada. You were going to see anywhere near close to that.
We haven't seen the best DJ in a month. He's missed the last 3 cuts before he left. So, and prior to that, he was 12th and 39th. So he's not playing like amazing golf. Just saying.
Reed is the one that I would have some interest in these live guys, and only because he was trending beforehand.
Yep.
And he's still almost triple the ownership projection of the other guys from the live tour that are playing.
Speaking of unlikable guys who defected.
Yeah. But see, I think that's the thing with Reed. He was going to get holy hell either way. I mean, that's every tournament for Reed. So this is old hat for him. And Reed is trending to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 7.5 to 8% ownership, and he's in like the mid sevens. I think Reed's an actual, like, he plays better in harder courses, plays better in shittier conditions. And at that ownership, I think that's an awesome leverage play. But we'll get down there. What are you drinking this evening, madam?
We do need to talk about that.
Beer here. Can I get a beer?
Beer.
Oh, yeah.
Bo's being boring because he didn't have time to get to the store.
So
I've been working so hard, didn't go to the store, but I did raid the garage fridge. So it's full of beer, but it's full of Pacifico, which I've had a lot of the last few days. But I found a few Stella Artois Belgians, and I thought of that one because I just had a new client today who's from Belgium. And I was like, you know what? Let's go Belgian white today. Go Stella Artois in a can, which it's not the same as a bottled Artois, but Stella is Stella. It's a good solid beer that you can drink every day. It's nice and light and crispy, and it tastes good. And really, if you're talking about any kind of beer, whether it's sour, IPA, you name it, if it's good, if it tastes good, then you're going to drink it and you're going to enjoy it. And I enjoy Stella.
I had a buddy who used to drink those. He lived down in Lake Havasu, where it's hotter than hell, obviously. But he used to drink 70-30 Stella Artois to Sprite. So he basically drink the neck down of the bottle and give him to spray it with Sprite.
I've heard that, but with
he was drinking Trulies before they were a thing.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, getting the calories down on the Stella. But no, I gave him holy hell the first few times I saw it, and then I tried it, and I was like,
it's pretty damn good.
I'm not going to order this.
Refreshing.
Yeah, it's like people that get grenadine in their Corona. It's like, I'm not going to order that, but it's not bad.
Well, I am drinking a sour ale with peach, cinnamon, vanilla, and pecans. It's called Peach Crumble Treat. I don't usually like sour ale, but I will say this is not on the soury side of a sour ale. It's more sweet.
Semi-sour.
And I typically drink like a heavy beer, like a porter, a stout. I like coffee. I like chocolate. I like peanut butter. So I really thought that even though this is a sour ale, the cinnamon, the vanilla, the pecans, even the peach, I might like it. And I will say that I do, because it's not that sour. It's more of like a sweet, and it's made by Prairie Artisan Ales, which is in Oklahoma.
Prairie Artisan has some of the biggest, heaviest stouts. They have a whole series called Prairie Bomb, and there's probably 25, 30 different varieties of them, but they're seasonal and they're limited. And they come in like a little, I don't even think it's a 12-ounce bottle. It almost looks like a little grenade with a long neck. But anyways, they're like more than 13% in ABV, and they are absolutely incredible stouts. So try those.
I will. And I did, just in case I did like it, I brought myself an ice bucket with another one in it.
Yeah. It reminds me of that episode of Schitt's Creek where she's trying the Herb Ertlinger's fruit wines.
Oh, yeah.
her compliment is, "Oh, that sounds delightfully busy." Like when you were reading off all the things in your beer, I was like, "Oh, how delightfully busy."
It's a sour, but it's not that sour.
Yeah. If you like sour beers that aren't more than semi-sour, try Herb Ertlinger's fruit wine.
It's more sweet.
What are you drinking, Connor?
So yeah, if you're not in the Midwest, you probably haven't had this. You might have heard of it, but I am drinking Slang du Jour from Drecker Brewing.
Oh, I almost brought that same brewery, but not that one.
No, so if you guys are getting them down there, they're super cool beers. They're like, this one's also like a fruited sour. It is the pineapple upside down cake, and I was going to tell you all the ingredients, Bo. You'll appreciate this. So it's loaded up in lactose, so it's like really creamy. It's pineapple, tart cherry, granola, brown sugar, cinnamon, lactose, and vanilla beans.
Ooh.
And it's 6.8, so you get a little bit of bite, but not bad. It's super, super tasty, but they're definitely proud of their beers too. That's about $24 for a 4-pack.
This one
And
was
if you have
$18.99.
a complicated tummy, you get a free tummy ache with the lactose.
Oh yeah, I mean, look how thick this damn thing is.
Thick boy.
This is $18.99 for the 4-pack. So again, pricey,
Damn.
but for like a situation like this, or if you're going to a friend's house where everybody's bringing a beer they never tasted before or something, I think it's a fun thing to do. Plus, you're supporting a small business essentially.
Nate would know this probably pretty well. Like back in the day when we were friends and hanging out, like we were all kind of a little beer snobby, but I mean, you kind of are that way living in Denver. And you used to go to bottle shares and all that stuff with friends all the time. And that's exactly what you do. You show up with like some badass expensive bottle and just give everybody a little sip. It's a good way to do it.
It's a good way to do it.
Excellent.
What about the course? So we've talked about some controversy. We've talked about my outstanding runaway landslide win.
We're going to edit that out later, right?
It was
And
so
so-
landslidey and sour, and I got second place for what feels like every time except for the one time I won. I've gotten second place every single time.
You ain't
And
first, you're last.
Right. And for me, it's just like if I'm not the bridesmaid, I didn't play.
That's true.
So
But now we have a course
the
to
country
discuss.
club, Brookline
country club.
in Massachusetts, which we've already talked about ad nauseum. So we're looking at a par 70, 7,264 yards. We're going to have Poana greens, 156 players in the field. That'll fluctuate a little bit in the next couple of days. Top 60 in ties, so a little bit different than a standard week. Course, basically this course is a true test of like your full bag. Like that's one thing that the USGA does really well every year is they set up the course to really not favor any particular play style. So outside of that, the course, I guess, natural defense wise, a lot of fescue grass. It's kind of all over the place. It's even kind of around the greens and some of the green runoff areas. There's a ton of hills and kind of like undulations that will actually direct the ball towards sand and water hazards.
Undulations.
The rough is already way up. They're going to keep letting that grow. So that's going to continue to be tough. Small. Probably the smallest greens that these guys will see, not only this year, but probably until the tournament's played here again. Like these are tiny greens. A lot of green runoff, like I said. They're going to be lightning fast. And I think the weather kind of goes back and forth. Looks like the wind is going to be around 15, 20 miles per hour, at least towards the tail end of this week. Potential thunderstorms. If that happens, that's going to affect the rough. That's going to affect how the POA greens play. I think this is going to be a really tough test for these guys. And, every week we kind of operate under the same narrative that approach is kind of king and approach is king. But like I said here, I do think that this is going to require every club in the bag. And that's actually how I built out my model. I did a little bit of off the tee, a little bit of approach, a little bit of around the green. I looked at proximity only to get an overall feel for who is getting close to the hole. And just looking at some of the different ranges, I didn't isolate one because I think that there's a little bit more of a spread to the yardage on some of these holes. And then the final thing I looked at is just bogey avoidance. I didn't look so much at the scoring statistics this week because I think it's going to be a low scoring event.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough to get birdies on this course, especially if the wind is up. One slight variation is I kind of left everything neutral off the tee, where I'm not really weighting it heavily at all because I think it's going to kind of cancel it out because the bombers are going to be in the rough and they're going to have trouble. They're going to have trouble if they're not finding fairways. The guys that find the fairways are going to have long approaches to tiny greens with high rough all around it. So I think the challenge of building a lineup this week is going to come around who are the scramblers and the guys who excel around the greens, who all are at least neutral off the tee. Like I don't want guys that are bad off the tee, obviously, because they'll just get eaten alive on this course. But guys who are neutral or better off the tee with excellent around the green and excellent scrambling. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
I think that's probably just going to be a sticking point for us this week because I do think I don't care what your length or otherwise is. I think off the tee accuracy is critical. Like I said, I think it tests every part of the game, and I don't think that you're going to be able to sleep on one part of it, even getting to like a neutral level with some of these guys. But, you could be completely right. We thought that the rough was going to be somewhat penal last week, and, there were some guys, but there were some guys that were able to play out of it successfully too. So I think I always try and put in the back of my mind when I'm building lineups and running stats that these guys are world-class athletes and golfers. And, yes.
Again, the gap between these guys and your club professionals, like your scratch golfers that you meet on your local golf course, the gap between those guys and these guys is bigger than the gap between you and me and those club professional scratch golfers.
Yeah.
It's a massive gap. We're talking our club pro scratch golfers wouldn't break 100 on this course.
The thing that I focused in on this week after reading about the course, they're very narrow fairways, which we've discussed. They are small greens. In fact, they are the second smallest greens on tour from what I read, Pebble Beach being the smallest. So what I was looking at was greens in regulation. And I was also looking at driving accuracy, and it's kind of hard to find somebody who's both accurate and hitting green in regulation. But when I did, one that stood out for me, if we're going to start throwing out names, but let me just make sure I'm not super out of line. Hold on.
Oh.
Well, yeah, I
throw
guess
out the name and then no trunk slams.
I will throw out a name later, but I did find somebody who I haven't played in the last 6 weeks that everybody likes to play. So let's just, maybe we just dive into it if I can find the right music. Let's go.
The club as well. This would be a wrestling slam.
No trunk slams, especially you, Shamblo. So, yeah, I think we all are kind of saying the same thing, but we're all going about it slightly different ways, which, again, is what makes our lineup slightly unique. Craig, however, is asking that we each give him a pick and help him round it out because he's not good at filling in the gaps, apparently.
He's not new around here. We do that every week.
I know, but he wants a full lineup, apparently.
I'll make him a deal. If he sticks around at the end, we can give him a pick from each tier.
Okay.
Oh, that's better than I would have offered him.
I might throw in an extra one that'll undoubtedly miss the cut for you.
Yes,
that sounds perfect.
But anyways, so I'll just kick it off with what you all know I'm going to say anyway. Up top, I will be going right back to Mr. Rory McIlroy.
What?
I know. It took a lot of research for me to get to that. It really did. I spent hours agonizing over who to pick.
Here's his research. He watched the RBC Canadian Open last week. Got all hyped up.
Here's the research. And he
just watched Sunday when Rory shot a 62 and closed the deal.
There is nobody, in my opinion, that is more driven to win this event. I think he wants to throw another finger out across the to the Live Golf Tour. I think he wants to make sure that nobody contends with him from that tour. I think that there are some people that may, and I think he's going to come out hot and heavy, and I think he's going to run away with it. I think he's in form. Obviously, he's in form. He just won. But even prior to that, week on week, you guys give me hell about him. And, I mean, the guy is nails. I mean, he just really is. He plays well every week. Even when he looks like he sucks, he's still in the top 10.
Yeah. So, now you know how I feel about my beloved, who, according to the pattern, I'm going to play him again, Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is my pick at the top. Not at the top. I'm just kidding. But that is how I feel about Fitzpatrick.
Gross.
He's not at the top. He's like somewhere in the middle tier this week.
Yeah, it's for me. It's like I'm kind of against exposing myself to any of these guys that are over 10K on DraftKings because I think the 9K tier is just as strong and they're cheaper and they're pulling less ownership. So why would I spend up and spend useful salary on guys that are going to be just as likely to win this tournament? That are going to cost me the same salary, and I don't have to even look at the sub 7 category if I don't roster anybody over 10K. And that's huge for this week because half of this field is going to get knocked out because they're sub 7. They have no chance. They're like, we have a bunch of amateurs. We have a bunch of old timers. They're just going to get picked off one by one. And so trying to sift through all those value guys is going to be really tough and really low odds of success. So I'm going to be locking in on a bunch of these 9K guys because I love all these guys and similarly to the top guys. I will have some exposure to each one of these guys that are at 10K or above, but I'm not going to get a bunch of exposure to those guys because I don't think that they're any better than the guys that are down where you're looking at Hovland and Schauffele and Spieth and Zalatoris and Cantlay. Like all these guys, I'm like, oh yeah, he can win. Oh yeah, he can win. And then I'm looking at Rahm and JT and McIlroy. I'm like, yeah, I feel the same way. So why would I spend up for those guys?
Yeah, I don't think it's so much a question of the salary actually. Like the paying up, down, whatever, left, right, crooked. That's not the concern to me. It's actually how difficult it is to narrow that player pool in the especially the mid sevens to even mid eights. Like there's just so many plays in there, and there are guys in there that I think are absolute traps. And I think that the ownership is definitely falling in there. So there's no leverage anywhere in there. Even if you pick a guy that does do well, there's going to be 18 to 20% of your closest friends on him too. It's one reason that I don't mind playing up above 10 is then you get down into the lower sevens where I think that there is some leverage.
I have 8 players in my pool of 15 that are in the 7s on DraftKings.
Wow.
And that's really exciting. Very top is probably no surprise, not in the 7s. Very top tier would be Scheffler. And before you think I'm stealing your ideas, Schauffele is my number 2 at 9.6. Scheffler 11.3. Schauffele 9.6. That's my top 2 in my build right now.
Yeah, give me Zalatoris and Cantlay at 93 and 92. I'm all over those two guys. They're exactly what I'm looking for in this tournament. They're guys that are just spectacular from tee to green. And then, of course, Cantlay has the closer's mentality. We've seen it a bunch of times the last couple of years where Cantlay just locks it down if he's in contention, and it's really hard to beat him. Zalatoris is just next. Like he's up there with Scotty Scheffler talent-wise where you're just waiting for that breakout to happen. And this is the kind of stage where Zalatoris has shown up. Like he's shown up top 10 last 2 Masters. When the course gets tough, the guy comes to play.
Well, what I don't love about Zalatoris is his driving accuracy. It's abysmal.
And his putting.
Yeah.
And his scrambling game.
His scrambling's not good either. I agree.
I mean, I love Zalatoris' approach game, but that's probably where I stop the fanboying out.
His greens in regulation is higher than average, but I mean, with these narrow fairways, exactly what we were talking about, it hacking out of that rough is not his specialty. So that's a little worrisome on this course for me when I look at Zalatoris.
He is a guy though that I will have a little bit of just because I want to be there when he hits too. And I do believe that he's an up and comer like Bo said. So I don't hate the play. I'm just not going to try and match the field as far as ownership goes. But
no argument with Cantlay though.
Not at all. As a matter of fact, Rory and Cantlay are where I'm starting most of my lineups. To my point about being not afraid to get down into the low 7s. You can kind of live there with those 2 guys, and it doesn't bother me one bit. And then I'm with Kelly. I will have some shares of Scheffler. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that yet, but
you have to chop it up, get more exposure because I know you're high on Lowry and Cam Young too. I just feel like they're great plays, but they're kind of overpriced. So you're probably getting some leverage off of them being a little bit too expensive.
It sucks
for
because
the
you're
venue.
not, at least not on the ownership projections I'm looking at. Shane Lowry is the most owned player in the field, 18.7.
For 9,000, that's rough. That's a rough price for him.
Yeah, so I may talk myself out of it. The thing that with Shane Lowry is he's just such a better golfer in shitty conditions on hard courses. Like it's just and his form this season has been fantastic. So it's just really hard to get off of him because this is the type of setup where he could definitely come out and just win.
I'm seeing Lowry on DraftKings as of noon Eastern was just under 11% rostered.
Yeah, that's decent. It's not terrible, but it's also not ideal for that. Like if I'm hunting leverage, I'm hunting leverage at these expensive guys because any one of these guys can come out and win the tournament or score a bunch of birdies and
Then you should pick
make your line.
Scheffler because Scheffler is 7.6% rostered right now.
Yeah, talk about a wizard scrambler. Like if I'm following my own model for this week, Scheffler is just spectacular.
So scrambling's on your
We got to talk about where you guys get ownership numbers from. So of 10,345 lineups that have been generated so far this week, of those lineups, Scotty Scheffler appears in 14.5% of them.
Well,
Shane Lowry is
yours is probably updated sooner, like more frequently, is what I was going to say. That's why I said as of noon Eastern. So as of noon Eastern, Scheffler was still like far from being a fave because people are upset because he didn't stay top of his game week after week, you know. But I do find it interesting, Bo, that you were talking about his scrambling because you're right. He is not a great scrambler. So that's a great point. I got on your case about Zalatoris. He is only slightly better out of the sand than Zalatoris, and Zalatoris is slightly better out of the shrubbery, but by minuscule tenths.
Is this Scheffler you're talking about?
Scheffler and Zalatoris.
Scheffler is really good around the greens, though, and I'm not really concerned about him at all. This is the kind of course where he's always done well.
He's 71% greens in regulation right now. So
but what worries me about Scheffler, like you said, is the same as Zalatoris, is off the tee. Like Scheffler has been spraying the ball everywhere the last couple of weeks, and that really worries me because if he's down in that cabbage, he's not a power player that's going to be able to hack it out like Cam Young.
Only slightly better than Zalatoris if we were to stack them up next to each other. Slightly better.
Right, and look at his price, it's 10,000 more.
Schauffele is the one that has popped out of nowhere, and I can't stand Xander Schauffele. Like, I don't know why, but he just rubs me the wrong way.
It must be a California
His eyes are not
thing.
very kind.
It must be a California thing. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride, huh, Bo? Because Schauffele doesn't win a damn thing unless it's some kind of a team event.
But he's 84 DK points a week, and that's what I like about him because the guy's always making birdies. He always makes one bonehead move to blow the tournament. But like you say, he doesn't win anything. But he does win DFS tournaments for you.
You're paying for it at 9,600
for sure.
Yeah,
I got 84 points out of Chris Kirk last week. I mean,
I got who was it that I had down at the bottom last week, the 82 points, and nobody had him. It was great.
Ryan Moore was 77.03% owned. I mean,
that was a good one.
There's you don't have to pay $9,600 to get 84 points, and more importantly, you're not getting 84 points this week. Period.
No,
not unless you win.
Yeah, your winner's going to have 80 to 90 points, and everybody else is going to kind of shuffle in afterwards. Your miscuts guy might not even get more than 10. That's how bad it could be.
Yeah, at the top, I always say this: if I don't think the guy is capable of winning the event, I'm not going to waste the money on him. I can find that value somewhere else down the board. $9,600 for a guy I don't think is going to win. I'm out.
I think Schauffele could win, and that's why I thought it was so weird that I was going to play him because I always overlook him. He's like invisible to me. And then I thought, shoot, I wonder if I should play him this week.
Shoot.
The low eights are my favorite spot too, though.
Yeah, let's drop down a little bit.
Yeah, Sam Burns, Tony Finau, those guys are both playing lights out golf right now. Finau's ball striker is as good as it gets, and boy howdy when he makes putts, he's one of the best in the world. And lately, Tony's been making some putts. He's getting some confidence back. I was hoping that would happen to Colin Morikawa too, but he hasn't been making putts, so I'm going to switch to my other favorite guy who makes putts when he feels like it, Tony Finau. Sam Burns is just winning tournaments, and he has 8 top 10s this season. The guy's just he's as good as it gets right now for consistent success in DFS. But Tony Finau is kind of intriguing because I don't think he's still not going to get a lot of popularity in DK tournaments, which I'm really on board with at 8,200.
I show him projecting out to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 16.5 to 18%. By the time the dust settles. And I think there's some recency bias in there. I probably shakes out closer to 14.5, 15. But I still like the play. And I think Sam Burns is right there in terms of ownership as well. I think the guy that I'm kind of interested in right there in that same spectrum, and he's got a very similar skill set, is I might go back to not friend, not enemy of the show, Max Homa.
I've thought about that too.
100. Max Homa is definitely in my pool, and he's in my build that I did for single entry. So I'm not too worried about a rostership in a single entry tournament because I just want the best plays. And Max Homa is definitely in that lineup.
We dropped down a little bit too, but I do have to mention my boy Cam Young. I will go back to Cam Young this week.
Boo.
The guy. So let's just look at this objectively, right? He's been in contention almost every tournament. He happened to have a blow up round. It happens to everybody. So that doesn't scare me off of him. He's been playing excellent. The only people in this field that have better stats than him, according to the modeling, in terms of tee to green and some of the approach metrics and proximity, are Justin Thomas and Rory McIlroy. So I mean, you gotta come around on Cam Young. You got to give him a minute. The guy had a bad round. He went
out and shot my average score.
Right. Yeah, he had one.
He's just like us.
Yeah.
One day a year, Cam Young is just like us. Except if I shot 84 today, I'd be ecstatic, and he shot an 84 and it cost him $1 million. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I do like Sam Burns when you guys said that. And then dropping down just a little bit, your favorite, and well, Cam Young's in there too, but your favorite and mine is the Sunbay M. Sung J. Everybody likes to say Sunbay.
Chalk Central.
And I like him this week, and I'll tell you why. This is who I was thinking of at the start of the show when we're talking about a player who is accurate. He's at the top of the accuracy list. We talk about whatever is considered a good drive. 86% of his drives are a good drive. I don't know what falls into that, but it's good. And then greens in regulation, 70% of them he's hitting. So I like it. I like it for this course. His scoring's not
I gotta
terrible.
hear the Fantasy National chalkage on Sung JM because he's priced about 1,500 lower than he should be.
And his scrambling is top-notch as well. Top-notch scramble.
I'm kind of with Kelly, though. Like, at 19.1, like, I don't know. Maybe this is chalk to eat. Like, he's got the right tools for this.
He's in that single entry tournament, just like Max Homa. We're talking about a world-class golfer that's priced down with guys who haven't proved anything either ever or in a very long time. Like, he's priced same as Louis Oosthuizen, the same as Abraham Answer. He's only 100 more than Seamus Power, who's a nice golfer, but he hasn't proved anything. Sung JM is 23 years old. He's already proved more in his whole career than Abraham Answer has. It's crazy that Sung JM is down here at 7,600 on DraftKings. That's way too low, and I'm afraid that chalk's going to take off in some of your tournaments.
For Tommy Fleetwood. Asking me to pay more for Tommy Fleetwood.
And unless you're talking about Ryder Cup, Tommy Fleetwood's done nothing ever.
That's just crazy to me. Sungjae's been, Sungjae's good. And I'm like I'm with both of you guys. I think it's a play, and I think you just eat the chalk. You find somewhere to be different.
Yeah.
I also like Mito at 78 and Wise.
I do too. For some of
Mito
the
and
things.
Wise are both just they're friends of the show. I mean, how many times have we brought up Mito Pereira and Aaron Wise on the show? They're just solid guys. They're consistently making cuts. They each have 4 top 10s. They're scoring DK points at a value. They're always under 8K on DraftKings. These are the guys that you plug and play. And on a tough golf course, Mito, especially with his short game, I'm loving the advantage that he has. And Wise as a ball striker. They both have merit here. Just like Connor said earlier, this course is going to demand the entire repertoire of these world-class golfers to be in contention. And a lot of these guys are going to miss the cut. And this cut is prohibitive. We're talking 2/3 of the field's going to be like wiped out on Friday night.
I do think with those two guys, like Mito, at least over the last 36, is significantly better statistically than Aaron Wise is, which is surprising because Wise had a nice little run. What was it at the Memorial where I thought he was actually going to take it?
Yep.
So the numbers don't lie; they are what they are. Either one of them is a good play, but I think Mito is going to calculate out to be the better value just based on the trending statistics on that one. So I probably, if I got to make a choice, it's probably Mito over Wise, but I like them both.
Yeah.
I blame both of them. You want to talk about your two boys down there in the low sevens, Connor, Hoagie, and Riley?
Oh, they're the same price. I'll play both of them. No, Davis Riley, I'm not quitting him.
Can't quit him. He's playing too well.
Yeah, he's so damn good. And he's composed. You watch him play, like he looks good, looks confident, looks like he knows what he's doing. Looks like he's been grinding for years.
If you're a Yahoo DFS player, Davis Riley is going to be close to the minimum price. He has been all season, and he's always cashing. Like, I'm making money on Yahoo just by playing Davis Riley every week at damn near the minimum price. They haven't figured out that he's actually good. They haven't actually updated their algorithm to account for how well he's played all season long. So if you're playing Yahoo, lock Davis Riley in your in your lineup and make money. That's step 1, Davis Riley. Step 2, profit. That's easy.
He hasn't.
You mentioned Patrick Reed earlier. I think that's a great play because he's been playing pretty well. And for live guys, 7,200 is really nice. That's. I mean, Patrick Reed's been playing better than 7,200 the last month and a half.
Yeah, I really do like. I love the Davis Riley play. I love the Patrick Reed play. I'm not going to fight either of those.
What about my guy Russell Henley? That's the guy I was setting you up because Russell Henley is going to be very heavily in my pool, 50%.
Yeah, he rates out like 3rd in my model, and that's the only thing. Is like he. I think he's going to end up being pretty popular. I think as the week goes on, I think people are going to run their models and their stats, and they're going to see Russell Henley is.
You look at the 10 players above him and the 10 players below him. He's averaging 10 more DK points than all of them, and he's only missed 1 cut all season. So you're getting a value guy that's going to stick around. And here's the hot take: Russell Henley is going to finish with more DK points this week than Matt Fitzpatrick. They're both metrically beautiful. Like, they both pop up in the models. They both make great stats. But Russell Henley's going to play better than Fitz this week.
I like the play on Henley also. And I like the play on Hoagie also. So I'm borrowing one from each of you this week in the low sevens. And the other one that nobody's talked about is Siwoo Kim, which number-wise does happen to pan out at 7 even. So if you're hurting in your budget, a little Siwoo Kim could be just what you need at 7 even.
I see your Siwoo, and I'll raise you a Luke List and a KH Lee.
I'm out on KH. Out on Siwoo, might have some List. I do like Siwoo, though. It's so tempting.
Siwoo is horrifically accurate in a good way. He's accurate.
Very volatile, though, man. He's either really good or really bad.
65% greens and regulation, 65% accuracy. And then, if we look at approach stats, really nothing to write home about. There's not a whole lot of red other than proximity outside of 200 yards. So if he can get much closer than that, we're in okay shape. And then scrambling, great out of the brush, horrible out of the sand. Cheers, Siwoo.
Siwoo, I'd rather have Adam Hadwin again. Had lose was a winner last week for me in his native land. Adam Hadwin, dude, the guy's playing really good golf. And again, he's another guy that's averaging 66 fantasy points a week, just like Siwoo Kim, same exact average score. Lower scoring average, better numbers than Siwoo at the same price. I think I'll take my chances on a guy who's playing better right now. And if I'm going down that low, which I'm not going to do a lot this week because other than a couple guys that I might take a couple shots on, I'm really not trying to get too much into the sub sevens this week.
I'll do you a favor. I'll not be on Hadwin. That way he'll do well for you. How's that?
What's that?
Every time I play Hadwin, dude, he kills me. So
that's why we call him Had Lose.
I won't play him, and then he'll do well for you.
Yeah. That's how it Hoagie is with me, though. Every time I play Hoagie, he just completely sucks.
So sub 7 into the 6s. Not a whole lot I'm excited about. But I am gonna roll the dice on Ryan Fox a few times, just a couple times, probably in some of those top heavy lineups starting with Rory. If you look at Ryan Fox in terms of the PGA performance, in even most modeling that you're going to look at because of where they get their stats, he's going to rate out really kind of shitty.
He's a Corn Ferry superstar, though.
He's a world golf tour superstar.
That's right, WT.
Well, yeah, so
he's killing it on that tour.
He's got a win and 2 runner-ups so far since the beginning of the year. He's got 6 top 10s. He's only missed 1 cut, averages 80 fantasy points per week, and he's got an average shot per round of 69. And this is a guy from New Zealand who's going to understand how to navigate some of these little rougher terrain, a little more wind. So I like Ryan Fox and the way he sets up here. I think he can do a hell of a lot better. And if you're just glancing at modeling, he's going to rate out really poor for you.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to go down there, I'm going to take some shots at Scott Stallings, Kevin Kisner. Yeah, just not very much though, because like I said, the way I've been building lately, I haven't had to really save that much. I've been able to round out my lineup with a guy in the low 7s, which is nice because I feel a lot more confident that my guys in the 9s and the 8s are going to perform well enough to make up for not spending up on the best golfers in the world, so to speak. Once I get down below those guys, though, I am not really enthused. Joel Damon, maybe.
Oof. I have him as a maybe too, well.
Me too. I saw that too. And Sam Horsfield right down there too. Is another one.
This isn't the kind of course I really want to play my guy Kurt Kitayama on because it's just he's not your power golfer that can get out of the rough, and he's not the most accurate ball striker. But around the greens, he's really good. He's just I don't know that he's got what it takes to perform in this kind of stage at this point in his career. But yeah, it's a region I'm going to try my darndest to avoid.
If I don't play Scheffler, I get a really good lineup that I'm really happy with a little money left over even. If I play Scheffler, then I'm digging for my last 2.
Kelly's been spending the whole show trying to figure out her lineup and captain's pick to go against us.
I have. I really have. But let's answer Royal Slade's question. Anybody want to guess? The over-under on when Hatton bitches about the course Wednesday after the practice round.
I'd say that's a really good number there because it's gonna be right then. It might be his Tuesday practice round today. We haven't checked his Twitter recently, but I'm sure he's already bitched about the course. The guy doesn't like any course where he snaps a couple clubs in his practice rounds.
Man, he's good TV though. I like watching him.
He is. I just love how last week he had like 2 doubles in a row, and then he rolled in an eagle, and you're like, And he didn't smile any. Like he had 2 terrible holes in a row, and then he rolls an eagle from 40 feet away, no smile whatsoever. Just like, I hate my life. This sucks. Like, dude, you just got an eagle.
Dude.
A better bet would be when Bryson curls up in the fetal, sucking his thumb, crying, and withdraws. That would be would be a good number to
That's
go.
That's gonna be Thursday, a minute after
Yep.
lock.
Yeah,
That's gonna happen as soon as he hears the booing, can throwing, or whatever's gonna happen.
Very fragile, that Bryson.
He is.
Funny
Nobody
guy.
should talk about his health or his ability to play to anyone but him.
Kevin Na's first round at Brookline's going to take 6 hours and 25 minutes.
He'll have to go out early on Friday.
Yeah, if they pair him up with Bryson, they might never finish.
Maybe that's the whole thing with the Live Tour. They're just monopolizing TV because they've got players that take an hour more than any other player.
They show so many more shots on their feed. Like they're showing like 60 shots an hour, like instead of 33 for the PGA Tour because they have so many other ad spots. Live Tour is actually showing shots, but it's like they're not even showing Na and DeChambeau as much because those guys are still lining up their putts for half an hour before they take them. So you're like, oh, let's see what else is going on around the course.
True story.
All right, ma'am, kick us off. Who is your play this week in our head-to-head?
I don't know who to pick as a captain, but I think because I've just been behind him so often and I teased about it last week, I'll go ahead and pick Fitzpatrick this week to be my captain. And I may hate myself, but that's where
Boo, that's terrible.
Okay.
Make a pit stop on your way home from wherever on Thursday and pick yourself up something nice to drink because you're going to be crying.
When he shoots 82 on Thursday, you're going to be like, oh, that wasn't very good.
Plus 5,
okay.
eh?
I'm going to pick him. I could pick Burns, but I think I'm going to go with Fitzpatrick. No, let me take it back. I'm going to go with Burns. Burns. I did this last week too, where I was going to pick
Burns. That's
Fitz.
at least a respectable pick. And now that you picked Burns, Fitz is going to come out and get like 5th place. So
lock it in with Burns. All right, Faye picks Burns.
We'll skip over Kough because we know he's taking Rory.
Yeah, just go ahead and write it down.
And I'm going to take my guy Patrick Cantlay.
That was going to be my other one, so I'm right there with you. I am playing Burns, but I don't know that I would. I'm not super confident, but I'm playing him. Kelly.
Yeah, that's fine.
What about Cam Smith? We didn't before we wrap this up. Cam Smith scares me this week because in my models that I'm looking at, I love his around the green, I love his scrambling, I love his putting, but his off the tee accuracy is so bad that you're like, he's either going to win this thing going away because of a short game or he's going to miss the cut. Does that concern you the same way?
Yeah, I looked at the driving numbers too, and I thought the same thing. Like I can't. And honestly, he burnt me last week too. I mean, I'm gonna be taking some time off from Cam Smith.
So you're breaking up with him?
I'm not going that far. He'll be back.
We were on a break.
I might make him get a haircut and dress up, take me somewhere nice for dinner or something, but we're not breaking up yet.
His profile picture looks so innocent too. His big old ears that his mullet covers now, no mustache.
I was taking a look for our friend Craig if he were to play Rory, Cantlay, and Burns. I think he would still end up okay with some of those low 7s if my math is okay. It was Scheffler who was a heck of a lot more, $8,000 more, that I was not able to squeeze in. So I think you could squeeze in Rory, Burns, and Cantlay, Craig, should you want to.
I would, yeah. So to be true to our word, I would go Rory or Cantlay up top. In the 8s, for me, I would go Cam Young and Max Homa. 7s, I would Mito Pereira and Davis Riley. And then the only guy, like, I guess if you can consider Brian Harman at 7,000, like count as 7 and below. I'd do Brian Harmon and Ryan Fox when you get down that cheap.
Ooh. I would pick Dahmen or Siwoo Kim at the bottom there. That's just me.
Bo?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go down as far as, let's see, 7,000 flat. Like I said before, I like Alexander Noren and I like Adam Hadwin.
But I do think that you could still do well. I would have to build it out, but I think you could still do well with those 3 and then some low 7s. But my math is not good, Craig, so you have to play with it.
I've built some where I start at Cantlay, and you can build some pretty nice lineups where you don't have to dip down to the kind of sketchier characters.
Sketchier characters.
Get down
What's
to
what's Hovland's projected roster ship?
What's that?
What's Hovland's projected roster ship? That's an interesting one for me because he's another volatile pick that doesn't line up with.
Can't chip, man.
No, yeah, exactly. But off the tee, he's nails.
Yeah,
he makes long putts.
He's low ownership for sure. They're projecting somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 7%.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I am confident that if Craig wanted to do this, because we listed Mito's at 7.8, but we have Henley at 7.3, Hoagie at 7.3, Riley at 7.3. And I know that you guys had some others in the 7s. When I plug in DraftKings, Cantlay, Lowry, Burns, you can your average minimum then is 7.3. So if you dip down for one icky, then your last 2 could be good, or you could just do 7.3, 7.3, 7.3, and you'll be great. I think that's a solid play right there, if I say so myself.
If I do say so myself.
Yep.
Yeehaw.
Darn tootin'.
I may actually just play that right now.
So Craig, now pivot on at least one.
Good times. That was fun, you guys.
I have a lineup here with 1,200 left over. I'm going to leave it.
Mine had 800 left over.
I spent every penny of mine.
You're not very frugal.
No, the new strategy is leaving money on the table, so I'm going back to spending it all.
It's free leverage.
Free leverage. Well, guys, this was a good time. I know Connor needs to get to the airport or something like that. But I love all of our regulars who pop in, Craig and Slade. And I swear we had somebody else. Sorry that if I forgot you. And then we had some creepers just watching. Thank you so much for watching. And
we love our creepers.
Thanks for being creepy.
We love you, creepers and all. Peace out. Bye.